I can use product.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. So this is part 2 of my Howard Hughes video. I just wanted to check because I started using a new microphone and I wasn't seeing a lot of you know action on the thing that shows if it's working. So anyway, seems to be working. So I'll continue. So I was just saying that there was some like sort of gangsterish, like kind of creepy, dangerous vibes that like I got into in the part 1. So look for that. I'm not gonna repeat myself um, because I'm just gonna keep looking at what I see. I feel like he feels some disappointed in what um, people like cinematographers or actresses were able to achieve. Like he had his vision of how he wanted it to be. He did he spared no expense to like help make it happen, and then people came short one way or the other. Either the actress was great, but then the lighting was bad, or the cinematographer like could have been better, or like there was always like some, not always, but like I'm gonna say 20% amount of disappointment on his side of like how it came out. Even if he was hiring like the supposed best people, or like maybe there were certain people in the industry that were not willing to work for him, so he had to get like who he could get. And of course, back then, without the internet or like knowing who's cool, like in different countries, like the options were fewer. So I just like from the beginning of the reading, I've been getting he has a very attuned sense of beauty and aesthetics and like art. I don't know how hands on he was, or if he ever was DOP, or that would have given him more control over how it looked, and so that would be frustrating to have a vision and then have somebody try to execute it for you. And it's like I know that feeling a little bit of when I'm recording music in a studio, and sometimes I'll say to the engineer like, can I just like turn the knob so I don't have to waste your time telling you what I want, because I'll know it when I hear it kind of thing. And I'm a bit familiar with the board, so it's like it's different than not really like trusting someone's taste and not really having like an exact vision of how you want it. So anyway, so I feel like he really had an exact vision of how he wanted it. And this like because he was highly intuitive and sensitive that way, like that's what made him a good sort of inventive businessman. But then you have to work with people, right? And like nobody's perfect, so it's like the frustration of having a vision and then trying to execute it, even if you have all the resources, like, and then it not being like exactly what you want. Uh, and of course, back then it was like film, so you find out like after it's developed, and like it's not like you can see immediately if it's a good shot or a bad shot, or like if how it turned out and whatever. So a lot of people were just kind of like, ah, it's good enough. Like it's like so because maybe a lot of movies at that time might have been just like, oh well, we trot out the stars, we paint their faces, we put on like a sexy dress, and like that's enough for most people. But he might have just had like a more rigorous aesthetic than that. Maybe it was even more subdued, or how like some Stanley Kubrick movies, it's really about a strong aesthetic and like every last detail matters and stuff. So it kind of more of that part of the spectrum. Okay. Also, I'm picking up like he might have been very picky about what he ate. Like it had to be very fine, like prepared like really perfectly, and maybe not large meals, but just like really tastefully done. Like you know how today, maybe it's the same back then, but like you have a big plate and then there's like one kind of item, like almost just one mouthful or something, but it's like highly perfect and just so like you'd see at like a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I get that kind of feeling about what he ate. Like if you wanted some melon, it would be like a few little pieces and then like some mint and then like some other like raspberries or like some, you know what I mean? I'm getting this feeling of like a sort of maternal type of energy that was just like lovingly spoiling, regardless of the outcome. That's like like spoiling a child, like not caring how he'll turn out if you do that. There's some like maternal figure in his life that was like that. It just feels like this swollen. I don't know if that means that this particular woman was heavy set or if it was just like this abundance of uh, affection or something like that. And also, like, I get the feeling of, you know, how back then people discussing or just like chatting with each other was a much more refined process. Like today, people just abbreviate stuff or are satisfied with just like a quick answer, or it can even be like in North America, kind of a rude, quick answer. Whereas if you like visit Europe, you might find people like put a more effort into their speech than here. Like I'm in Canada. Um, so and back then it was like there was no TV, there was no like you're the entertainment, you know. So you're sort of um, back and forth with people has to be like engaging and like witty and charming and funny and like to the point or like convincing or you know it's really like an art form. Like you can see like if you read like books like Plato books like about Socrates and stuff, like how witty and funny people were in the classical period. So it's like the further back you go, like the more amazing people were at speaking. So I'm getting this kind of vibe where there's like it's kind of like white teeth, like like chattering, like what like watching people talk and being and then being like on like all at the same time, like clever cutting, like all these things together. It's just like this um, very composed, effective, almost scary, but charming and beautiful all at the same time. Like it's, you know, maybe if there are clips from like the older comics who are really clever from that period, like that might give the impression of what I'm talking about. So I feel like this is atmosphere and it's like dignity meant a lot more like back then. Like, so it's kind of like when I was really little, we'd go visit my grandparents who were really more old fashioned. Like, they were very nice and, calm people. But there were rules like, we dress up for dinner, manners meant a lot, and all that stuff. So it was an adjustment for me. Like, my parents didn't raise me in a formal manner, but then when we went to visit my grandparents, we, you know, play by their rules out of respect. So it's that kind of thing where the degree of elegance like feels like for him like super high. And it's almost like an armor that you wear to protect you from like people negative gossip or um, yeah, because it's like people didn't have a lot of information flowing throughout their lives, just like the people, because like there would, there's no cell phones, there's no TV shows, there's a lot of silence in between things, and you're not going to meet like people from other cities unless they physically go there, and you know, so you'd really just only be interested in like your neighbors or like people at work or like people, really the people you have interaction with. And so like the tendency to gossip or to, use this negative creative energy that people have, uh, they'd use it against each other, and it's kind of like you survive through life, avoiding being taken down by your friends, family, and like coworkers and stuff. Like it's a real tightrope walk, I feel like. And then to just like release all that structure and just be how he was towards the end, where he's like not cutting his hair, not really washing, like wearing the same clothes, like not wanting to go out. You could say as a reaction to all that like hyper vigilance that everyone had on him. And it makes me kind of like, it's not my sadness, but I'm feeling this like crying, like sadness feeling when I say that. It's sort of like, what do you want? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, people were not content to let him be happy. And then if you think of this synchronicity of like World War II and all that like destruction, it's really like it just feels like the vibe was like just generally dangerous. If you look at old pictures, everyone looks well dressed and nice and everything, but like stuff was really some negative stuff going on, and like unreported crimes and just wild stuff. I'm getting the feeling I don't want to time travel. Okay. Okay, Howard Hughes. I feel like he was a person, like when he really liked someone, like he really enjoyed the kissing aspect of things. I feel like he just really didn't like what people said about him in the press. And he just sort of felt like he couldn't win because people were so wanting to take him down. I wonder who at that time people really supported unconditionally, like, if anyone. I don't like, I think maybe no one. Like, seems like a pretty harsh period of time. it's kind of like he had a lot to offer. It's like, look what I made. Like, let's do this too. Look at this wonderful airplane I designed, or is my own or whatever. Let's go for a ride. But it's like no one like matched his level of giving. I feel like he really loved nature and like the beach, like where obviously the beach is where the land meets the sea, but I'm really getting that like feeling of like the ocean and the sky and like a beautiful like pristine beach and like the birds. It just was like he really loved that. So that might be the where he found a fulfilling give and take relationship with nature, because people always wanted something, or like they it's not like today where you can watch a video on like narcissists or like why do people act this way, or like people were not it doesn't feel like people were as savvy about like healing themselves or changing bad habits or like stuff like that. So he'd run into a lot of like people who appeared great but who were not sort of safe people in his life. I don't know if he had children, but let's say if he had or he does, like that would have been like a really pure interaction for him. I'm just like getting like, but then let's say he did have kids, like the wife would have complicated things, or I'm kind of curious if he had any kids or not, like what that's all about. Yeah, so I'm getting a transition from like just plainly elegant to like sort of Studio 54 style, like elegance, like having a white suit and just being more like extra with his image. And then suffering a series of like hard emotional blows to the point where he's just like kind of in shock and unable to take care of himself correctly from some kind of extreme what's the word, betrayal. Yeah, and I get like again just some big yelling going on. um yeah, I'm just trying to see like beyond that point. I'm just getting some interfering energy from the viewing audience. Just a second. Yeah, so it's like no matter what he did, like people are always just gonna write like mean pieces or like just betray him in ways, and it was just like that's life, like that. This is what living is right now among these people, and it's almost like only death will satisfy them, just to make them feel like more successful, or I don't know, like more powerful. Yeah. Yeah, he did achieve a lot, and it's like, let's focus on that. Like, don't focus on what tripped him up. Like, focus on what he was able to achieve and like his aesthetic and how he is set apart as an artist, as a producer or director, like however, him planning these projects, having control over these projects. Yeah, I'll just try to see a couple more things and then I'll wrap it up. Because it's like a life, like, uh, not recent. um, there's a bit of like mist or like I'm sensing like the length of time also. Like, so I'm gonna try to like really stay with his energy. Yeah, so I feel like some women in his life really talk back or like were really just had a lack of tact with him. It can be aggressive, like could maybe because they're beautiful and like felt like superheroes or something. Like they felt they could disrespect people or like demand things or just seems like behind closed doors like not nice people truly. So there's that. It's kind of like he has his dreams and he's like, I'm gonna be this, and then it's like the whole world attacks him for being that. Um, how they talk about like soulmates or like I feel like he wasn't meeting like people that were as like equally yoked, like soulmate type of people. Or if you did, like the person's married and it's just like it's not working out, like it's impossible, like that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing like see you in like 2 lifetimes kind of thing. Like I think back then it was a lot harder to find like your perfect match because you weren't, you like now you have the internet or like if you're lonely, you have the option of going to sites or a fair number of people have met their partners in through that means. So of course he didn't have that. Okay, so I just feel like I'm feeling some like health issues, like I don't know if it's like kidney or like below the belly button kind of health issues. um like or liver, like maybe he had a like severe drinking problem at some point. Yeah, I'm feeling like that. It was kind of like just to dull or quiet the pain that he was constantly getting from others or the press or competitive people or just, yeah, like if you're not like a highly spiritually connected person who just gets like a blissful feeling just by thinking of God, like if you're not able to recharge your battery in that way, people can sometimes bring you down to the point where you're just like dulling the pain. I feel like that was his situation. And I feel like I'm not sure where he passed away exactly, but like he would have preferred like near the giant redwoods or like in nature more. So, I mean, I don't know if the life lesson for everybody is like, you know, focus on your projects. Don't expect everyone to be, oh my gosh, like great, I love it. Like you go you know, like not everybody's gonna do that. Or in his case, like no one, right? So like be your own cheering squad and like don't let people's criticism get to you, I guess. I'm gonna wrap it up here. That was pretty intense vibes to look at. Very interesting for me though. I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys have a recommendation of a celebrity reading, you can email me. Please subscribe, or I'd love to get to 1,000 or above. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.